Hey, everybody, welcome to a very special edition of Tim's Vinyl Confessions. I'm Tim Derling, and I'm welcoming two co hosts, two buddies back here to the show. I think the three of us have been on before talking about Y&T. This time we're talking about another classic band, Thin Lizzy. And so we've got Mike Ladano from Grab a Stack of Rock and John the Music Nut. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thanks, Tim. John, great to see you again.
Great to see you too, Mike. Thank you so much for having me, Tim. Appreciate it. Good to see you as well.
Oh yeah, no, we had to. So yeah, as when this premieres, so not as we're filming, but when this premieres, it will be 40 years to the day that Phil Lynott passed away, way too young at the age of 36. Just talk about Ballad of a Hard Man. Like, I mean, that guy lived the rock and roll lifestyle to the hilt. He was a fantastic. He was a poet, great musician, great lyricist, and I think a great vocalist too. He was a very, very good interpreter. So what we're going to do on this episode, I know that in the past I've done episodes where I've kind of updated everyone on how my Thin Lizzy collection was coming along. But this one's going to be strictly on Thin Lizzy CD. So I'm always curious, and I enjoy doing these types of episodes with other people to see what versions of the albums that each of us have. So we're going to go in chronological order. Let's start with the debut album, 1971, self-titled. Gentlemen, hold up your debut album. Let's see what we got.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah.
So I could see that Mike's got one with a hype sticker on it. What version do you have there, Mike?
This is Decca, 19 tracks.
Okay, so you've got the same version, but mine did not come
Interesting.
with a hype sticker.
I have
Well,
the same one as you guys.
Yeah, and the
look, it's
disc
right
looks
on the
like
booklet.
this. Yeah, same disc, deck the old Decca label. Yeah, that's interesting. Um, so yeah, this also contains the was it the New Day EP and
Right.
Yeah.
the very first single, The Farmer. There's also some remixes from 1977 here. Um, so yeah, first album 1971. I mean, it's not my favorite, but right away you can tell who it is. What do you guys think of the first Thin Lizzy album?
Who do you
I'm
want to?
heavily influenced by Martin Popoff's opinions in some of his
Well,
earlier
you know what?
books.
That's the other thing. I actually brought this along because John and I both appear in this book. I think John's in the chapter on the first album.
I
So,
am.
so we'll start with Mike, and then we'll go with John. What do you guys kind of think? Just real quick, what do you think
I,
about the
I don't
first
have a
album?
lot to say because my feelings on the first three are pretty much generally the same, the Eric Bell years. I don't listen to these albums frequently. It's a very kind of folk rock hybrid at some points on these early albums, and I like that. That's fine. I don't find that these songs compositionally are just as ear-catching as a lot of the later stuff that we're going to get into. I enjoy it, but it's not a go-to album. It's more of a listening with intent. Like today, I'm going to listen to early Thin Lizzy, you know?
Right. John, what are your thoughts on this one? I mean, I know some of them, but
I enjoy this album. Now, it's not among my favorite albums, but this is where Phil is trying to find his inner Van Morrison as far
yeah,
as singing about growing up in Ireland, the experiences he had in Ireland. Musically, it's pretty diverse because they're still trying to find their sound. We don't got the unison guitars yet, folks. But there's a lot of interesting stuff on here. We got Mellotron on here on Honesty It's No Excuse. We have Diddy Levine, which is very folk. And then until it goes into the musical bridge, Ray Gun sounds like Jimi Hendrix. The only song on here that really sounds like something familiar that we would hear later is Look What the Wind Blew In, which is
yeah,
the first great rock song.
I'd agree with that. Yeah,
But
yeah,
it's a I like to talk about these legacy artists. They sometimes have these very different but interesting debuts, and
yeah.
this is certainly one of them. This is one that it is a grower. And one thing I will say, I don't think Phil ever sang better than he did on this album. His
Yeah, I'd
vocal,
agree with that. Like his vocals are really like your stereotypical definition of good vocals.
absolutely.
You get the best taste of that here.
They were, yes, this is a very well recorded album in this Decca version of here. And of course, the New Day EP, I think some of the songs that were on the New Day EP could have easily been on the debut. I think some of them are stronger, as a matter of
I
fact.
agree.
I agree. Yeah, and I'm really glad that they put them on here, so it didn't remain one of those really hard things to track down. Yeah, no,
Exactly.
I agree pretty much with what you guys said, and I will say, "Look What the Wind Blew In" has always been my favorite on this album. What a great showcase for Brian Downey on drums. I mean, that no, not enough people talk about him as just having that effortless feel, and very capable. So there's the first album. Second one, 1972, Shades of a Blue Orphanage. I'm gonna guess we've all got the same version of that. It's another Deco reissue.
Yes.
And once again, Mike has the hype sticker, which we do not. That's really weird. The CD, yes, the CD is green, which actually makes a lot more sense. R. um, Now this is an album. I kind of wish they'd made this the album cover, but I know that's probably supposed to represent the guys.
Yes.
But I will say that this is an album that I think I talk about this because I'm in this chapter in Martin's book. I've never seen an 8-track version of this
Okay.
ever. I mean, I know there's got to be, but I've seen at least one of the debut with the other cover, with the different cover, but
Yeah.
I've never seen one of Shades of Blue Orphanage. Now, this album I remember when I was um, actually I was still building my Lizzy collection, but this was one of the albums that I had agreed to talk about. So I thought, well, I'd better get it and listen to it. And I got to say, it was better than I thought it would be. I heard this before I heard the debut. I thought this would be hopelessly dated, and some of it is, but a lot of it is very recognizable as Thin Lizzy. I think that, and you got to love the titles. The rise and dear demise of the funky nomadic tribes. I mean, only Thin Lizzy would do that, right? Babyface is a cool early rocker. Um, I like Chatting Today. That's very folky, but I like it. Um, Buffalo Gal. I mean, you can listen. You get that Buffalo, that very rhythmic. And some of the songs that they put on the as bonus tracks are really cool, like Black Boys on the Corner. I really like that one. Like that's a rocker, and that's a really really cool song. Um, it's interesting to me that they have two completely different songs called Sarah. One was about, I think, Phil's grandmother, and the other one ends up about his daughter. Uh, the only one I really don't like on here, and I guess I'm giving my quick opinion on it, is the title song. It's just too long and depressing for me. But Mike, and then John, what do you guys think of the second album?
I think you summed it up very, very well. I don't really have too much to add. I really agree with you though on Black Boys on the Corner. Absolutely my favorite tune of this batch, and it's that riff, man. Freaking great. It's got that. It's
Yeah,
like you don't think of Thin Lizzy necessarily as funky, but there's definitely some funk in there in
it's
that in
got
that
that
riff.
Shaft feel.
Yeah, right, exactly. So
Yeah.
that's, yeah, nothing much to add here, but again, I really love the value of getting these bonus tracks. I think those 77 overdubbed and remix versions, I think there was an album that they did where Gary Moore overdubbed some, I think that might be those. I think
Was that
that's,
the one that was called The Rocker?
no, no, it was called
There's,
something else,
okay.
but it was never issued on CD.
There's one that's called what was it? The Continuing Adventures of Thin
That's the
Lizzy?
one. I think
Yeah.
that's the one. So yeah, I'm glad that these reissues do include things like that. It's much appreciative for the collector in me.
Yeah. John, what do you think of this album?
This is my least favorite Thin Lizzy record, and for a few reasons. One, it seems to be all over the map musically. I think they had a good starting points, but they're trying a lot of different things here. I don't want to forget how to jive is my least favorite Thin Lizzy song. They're trying to do like this Elvis slash rockabilly.
Oh yeah, it's straight up 50s
And
Elvis. Yeah.
right. And I don't like the way it's recorded. It's very, very muddy. I mean, when you have this wonderful recording on the first album where you hear the instruments very, very clearly, it's really, really muddy, particularly on the title song. The title
Yeah.
song has a lot of a potential to it, but it sounds really dreary in the way that it's recorded. And yes, it is very, very long. But as far as my favorite songs, Buffalo Gal, I like a lot. I love Call the Police. I think that's
Yeah.
very spirited rocker there. Brought Down is one of their first of many songs which are a lot more emotional, even though it
Yeah.
does have more of a driving rhythm.
Yeah.
I think Brought Down is very, very good. And of course, you're talking about Babyface and Channing today. They're both good songs. And the original Sarah, of course, too. It's interesting, though. We got this really funky vibe at the beginning there, very highly percussive on that. Brian Downey, I mean, you can really hear his chops on that opening track, The Rise and Dear Demise of the Funky Nomadic Tribes. Like musically, I think you hear more of their talent, but the songs I don't think are nearly as strong, and the production I'm not high on at all.
Yeah, I agree. Those all good points. And I should say both of so far we've all got the Decca reissues from 2007. That's when those came out. Next up, 1973, the third album. I should have had the picture with me, but the first one that has the artwork by Jim Fitzpatrick, who I anyway. This is yeah. Vagabonds of the Western World. Now, the version that I have is let me see. Eyesight's not what it used to be, folks. Um, the version that I have, I don't think it has a year of reissue on it, but it's got the old polygram number, and it's got a Duram instead of Decca in the corner. And it looks like John and I have the same version. Now Mike's got a different one. So this is I mean, Jim Fitzpatrick did a ton of Thin Lizzy's album covers, and I think it's really cool that the Eric Bell era got one. I think this is a really cool cover. I don't have this one on vinyl. Um, well, before I get into what I think of this album, I guess we'll ask Mike what he thinks of the third Lizzy album. Oh, this is what the CD looks like, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, as you can see, I have the 2007 Decca with the hype sticker. This was a two CD edition this time with all kinds of extra stuff. I like this album, but again, my opinion on the first three is kind of consistent throughout. They're not my go-to albums, but I think they're starting to be the band that they were going to become. You've got the rocker on here, cruising in the Lizzie Mobile on the bonus tracks here. That's one of my absolute favorite Thin Lizzy songs. I love cruising in the Lizzie
That's
Mobile.
that's not on the version I have.
Oh, darn it. This one, okay, so this one has the original album. Then it has another like seven bonus tracks, 1977 overdubbed and remixed version of Slow Blues, two radio promo edits, a BBC Radio 1 in concert, BBC Radio 1 John Peel, BBC Radio 1 Rock On session. These are all going to be duplicated later on as we go through the discography. But it's a really nice reissue, but I wish I had the new one, however many discs that one is, like 3 or 4 discs. It's one of the holes in my Thin Lizzy collection. I need to get the upgraded version of that.
John, what do you think of this album?
Okay, to me, this is the first album of the Great Seven album run, which I would put up against any legacy band of the 1970s as far as their first 6 or 7 albums. We always hear about Led Zeppelin's first 6 albums. We always hear about Black Sabbath's first 6 albums. We always hear about the 7 album run with Queen in the 70s. I think this should be spoken in the same sentence as those albums. Now, it's very diverse, but we are starting to hear more of the Thin Lizzy that would reach the masses, the Thin Lizzy that most people know and love. Vagabond of the Western World has a really cool feel to it. It's got this very funk rock sound to it, much like you heard a little bit of on the previous album, Shades of Blue Orphanage. They do have some songs on here that got strong traces of funk, particularly the title song and Gonna Creep Up on You. Excellent. And we have their first great rocker in The Rocker, which would be their encore for many, many years. But Mama Nature said that's more an acoustic folk song, but more of a driving folk song. That takes you back to their first album. The Hero and the Madman is very, very cool because it's very atmospheric. You've got the spoken word passages before Phil comes in is very, very cool. We got a really great ballad here in Little Girl in Bloom, which is the first, I think, of many, many great ballads by Thin Lizzy. Thin Lizzy, they just had a knack for the ballads, and not just because of Phil's wonderful, soulful voice. So, this, I think, is a wonderful album. And I don't this one, along with another one we're going to talk about very soon, are among my favorites. And I think they deserve to get a little more recognition than they do.
I agree. I love this album. I think this album is great. For those that might disparage the Eric Bell era, no, they don't have the two guitar type. This is a great album. There's this. It's a great bunch of songs. I absolutely love the Hero and the Madman. I think it's so cool. BBC broadcaster by the name of Kid Jensen, who, by the way, is Canadian,
Yes.
but he just has that. The hero rides a white horse. He tippy toed, but it's a cool song, and it is very atmospheric. It's like, go higher, the world's on fire. You're a liar, said the crowd from down below. Like it's very, very unique, but I love it, and it's also got the musical parts. Eric Bell, like da 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 da, like it's got some cool solos on there. So he was no slouch. He just wasn't, he wasn't Scott Gorham, he wasn't Robo, wasn't Gary Moore, but he was his own guy. Slow blues. John and I talked about this when we reviewed the acoustic sessions. To me, that's right out of the Peter Green, Fleetwood Mac era. That so reminds me of something on like Then Play On, like or one of those albums. Yeah, Little Girl in Bloom is great. It's very the lyrics are kind of the lyrics. There's a hint of menace there, but Phil delivers them very smoothly. Going to creep up on you is cool. Now the version that I have and John has the four bonus tracks on here. Once again, it's like they don't know what to do with Whiskey in the Jar, so they stick it on various albums. It's like any Yes fans out there. It's like their cover of Simon and Garfunkel's America. It doesn't belong to an album, so it's on Close
Right.
to the Edge. It's on Fragile. They don't know what to do with it. This also has Black Boys on the Corner for some reason, and then it's got Randolph's Tango, which is just what it sounds like, and it's very cool. Like Phil's so good at um, doing characters. Yeah, and then finally Broken Dreams. Yeah, no, I really, really like this album. I found that I kept coming back to this one, which kind of surprised me. So now we're moving forward, 1974, as John's shirt would indicate. Thin Lizzy, Nightlife, and the version I have is an older one from the '80s. Looks like this on the back, and yeah, and it's just your typical Vertigo CD from the time that Polygram was doing. So this is the first album with Scott Gorham and Brian Robertson. I don't think it's quite. It's some bands have interval albums. I think this is an interval album because it's extremely eclectic. Now there are some good songs on here. It's not one I reach for a lot, but sometimes like I think of the songs that are ended up on live albums and stuff, and that's how I know them. But Mike, what do you think of the Nightlife album? Love the cover. Cover is just striking. It's almost like precursor to Black Tiger in a way.
Oh, yes.
You
Good.
knew it. You knew I had to say it, right?
Of
Yeah.
course.
So, Mike, what do you think of the Nightlife album?
It's a lot softer than what I was expecting when I bought it. When I was first exploring Thin Lizzy and you were just buying what you could find in the used record stores anytime you could find it. So I brought Nightlife home and I was like, wow, this is really ballady. But, it does have some really classic stuff on here. She Knows. Nightlife itself, I've always liked that song. Remember when David Lee Roth covered it? I liked when he covered it too. Still in Love with You. Man, like your heart cries with that one. I like Showdown. Showdown's quite laid back, but it's got that, I don't know, there's something about it. It's just got vibe. And of course, Shalala. You gotta love Shalala as far as like the more rock and stuff goes. So yeah, like I think they were still searching for direction. I think it's a steady climb to what they were going to become, but now we have the classic four guys And this one has some BBC sessions. Again, we'll get into some of those. But it also has three demos with Gary Moore. Showdown, Still in Love with You, and It's Only Money. It also has alternate mix and rough vocal mix of Showdown and Still in Love with You. So this is a nice deluxe edition.
Nice. Well, to me, this is the Thin Lizzy album I go back to the most. At times in my life, this has been my favorite Thin Lizzy album. I love soulful R&B Thin Lizzy. This is a transitional album, but what a wonderful transitional album. We only have 3 songs on here that you could say really rock.
Yeah.
You got acoustic guitar on here. You got blues on here. You got great use of space, a lot of atmosphere. Song like Showdown, Mike, you were talking about that. That's one of my 10 favorite Thin Lizzy songs. It is wonderful. You got the guitar tandem of Scott and Brian here, but you don't have too many of those wonderful unison guitar leads yet. We got them on Philomena, and we got a great balls out rocker on It's Only Money. Still in Love with You. That's Gary Moore on the solo. That's would be his first appearance on a Thin Lizzy album, but I love everything on here. I also like Banshee, which is just this 1 minute and a half.
I wish that was longer. That's really cool.
It
Yeah.
is just it just sounds like something out of a country western movie.
Yeah.
Or country western show back in the late 60s. But I adore this record. I mean, there are songs on here that are a little different, like Frankie Carroll, which is this mournful piano ballad. But I always love Philomena. That's a song that Phil wrote about his mother.
Yeah.
Sha La La, which would usually lead to a Brian Downey drum solo live, which we hear on Live and Dangerous a few years later, is wonderful. But ballads on here, Dear Heart is a tearjerker that closes the album. So I adore this record. This has always been one of my 3 favorite Thin Lizzy records to this day.
Cool. So next up is a rarity for me because I think it's one of the only Thin Lizzy CDs that I found used. Uh, don't see Thin Lizzy that much out there. And it's getting harder to find original vinyl. Usually you see the reissues. So it was a big surprise when I found this in a store when I didn't have it. So this is Fighting. This is one of the covers for it. And this is an old CD from the 80s. Looks like this on the back. Yeah, John's got the alternate cover. This has got the same style of CD on it. And you see, there's probably not much in it. No, not much in it at all. Uh, Mike, what do you think about the Fighting album?
Well, for one, I think it's one of the box sets that I am missing in my collection. They did the Fighting Nightlife box set. Would love to get that, but I have the deluxe for now. I like the album, but I think there was still they needed one more record before they hit their proper sound. I kind of expected that sound when I bought this because I already knew the song Fighting My Way Back, which is like in my top 10 Lizzy songs of all time. So I was kind of expecting more of that sound, but there isn't a lot of that exact sound on this. Um, Suicide's good. Wild One, freaking amazing. Everybody loves Rosalie. Fighting My Way Back, King's Vengeance. Oh man, there's a lot of good stuff on here, but I think they still had one more album to go before they slid into the signature Thin Lizzy sound. I think we're still just slightly transitioning, but we're getting there. We're almost there. This one has some great stuff on the second disc, including one of my all-time favorites, Half Cast. Those lyrics cut. Those lyrics cut. Thin Lizzy, sorry, Phil Lynott. I mean, you already said he was a poet. That's a slice of his life there. Um, and then there's one at the end here, Brian's Funky Phaser, which is an early version of Silver Dollar. So lots of value again on the bonus discs.
And John, what do you think of Fighting?
Fighting. So first side's very immediate. The second side is the side where the songs you need a few listens to let them really grow on you because a lot of them are very mid-tempo. got different dimensions to them, except for the Ballad of a Hard Man that closes the album. That's a balls out rocker. But you got Suicide, which is wicked. What a wonderful lyric on there of a crime scene. Phil's talked about the delivery on here is magnificent throughout with the band. Rosalie, they took that Bob Seger song and they made it their own. Wild One's got beautiful use of those harmony guitars on there. Fantastic. Fight My Way Back, as Mike pointed out, that just comes in, just kicks your ass and takes names. Awesome. But the second side, it reaps great rewards over time. I love Spirit Slips Away, which is very tranquil and haunting at the same time. Silver Dollar has more of a good time feel to it, but it has more, but mellower at the same time with the guitars. Freedom Song and King's Revenge. Phil sounds great on those. They're wonderful tracks, more mid tempo, but very joyous in their execution. But, little different than what we would get coming up. Not as anthemic, but very strong songs on here. You're really hearing the band come into what the masses would love. Yes, when Mike says here, I agree with the fact is, yes, they're not quite at the peak of the Brian and Scott era, because the songs are a little different at times. I mean, some of them just come in and they're just great anthems and they're very immediate. And then there's some, they're just very good songs that have to grow on you. But this, again, is a great record.
I love this album too. I think this is a really good album, and to me, this is the first real album with that sound. Nightlife was not it. This is where the building blocks are in place. It's just they needed a different batch of songs to really connect with people, but there are some fantastic songs in here. Before I forget, the one thing I have to say, when I first heard Spirit Slips Away, when that came on, I immediately thought Switch 625 by Def Leppard. Da-da-da, da-da-da. I mean, I knew they were an influence, but I really hear it there. I'm like, they just took that opening riff and changed a few notes. It does something different with it, but like you can really hear it. Like I think anybody that's really familiar with the High and Dry album, listen to the beginning of that song, you'll get it. It's like I get it. There it is. Um, Rosalie's fun. It's a Bob Seger song. I've never heard his version of it, but it's actually about a Canadian DJ named Rosalie Trombley, who was very influential, and a lot of Alice Cooper, they've talked about her playing them on Windsor radio because you could hear it in Detroit. And her son Tim Trombley went on to become an engineer, and I believe he worked with Bob Ezrin, which is there's a connection there. Of course, that song would get another life on Live and Dangerous, like a lot of their early stuff. For Those Who Love to Live is interesting because Thin Lizzy, like I said, bands that I got into before I got into Thin Lizzy that came after them. When I first heard For Those Who Love to Live, it reminded me of an early Whitesnake song called The Time Is Right for Love with those like it totally reminded me of that. Suicide is awesome. It's Phil's storytelling. It's vicious. There's a cover up and um, Wild One. I actually heard the first time on John Norum's first solo album, Total Control. And I knew it was a Thin Lizzy cover because you could see the credit to P line it, but it's really, really melancholy ballad. Again, more storytelling. Fighting My Way Back is awesome. Yeah, you're right. They kind of front loaded the first side with the more immediate songs, but the like John said, it reaps rewards listening to the songs on the second side, and they kind of what's really cool is Ballad of a Hard Man was written by Scott Gorham, and I still think this, and I talk about it in Martin's book again. And by the way, this is a great book for anybody that wants to get into Thin Lizzy because it's an album by album discussion, which is totally where I got my panel discussion book idea from, was books like this, and Martin knows that. But it almost sounds like Scott being a native Californian. the family back home, tell us about Phil Lynott. So he wrote that song. That's what it strikes me as. Um, so next up, of course, is the breakthrough Thin Lizzy album, Jailbreak, 1976, one of two albums that they would do. And the fun thing about comparing the covers is like, does your version have all four guys in the picture or just three? Mine has three. Mine is a 1996 Mercury reissue. And I actually bought this one new at when Sunrise Records first opened, and I was pleasantly surprised to see it. So I think we've all got slightly different versions of this one, which doesn't surprise me because it's probably been reissued and made available more. So yeah, a lot of reasons why this was the breakthrough album, but I mean, there's some classic 70s rock cover art right there. This has always reminded me of Destroyer. Um,
Yes.
it's not, I mean, obviously it's Jim Fitzpatrick, it's not Ken Kelly, but the four, jumping and the explosion. But anyway, Mike, as an album, Jailbreak, what do you think?
I'm trying to remember, but I think this might have been my first Lizzy studio album that I bought, that I found. And I'm trying to remember back in like 1999 when the movie Detroit Rock City came out. What's Thin
Right.
Lizzy's song? Was it Jailbreak that was on the soundtrack?
Yeah, and very well placed in the movie.
Okay, so I know the
When they're
scene
escaping from the school,
from Joe
when
Flaherty.
they when they bail the jam, when they bail him out and get on the road, that's the song they play.
So I bought that soundtrack CD that summer, and that was the moment that I said, I'm going to start collecting Thin Lizzy. And although this wasn't my first Lizzy purchase, this was my first Lizzy studio album. And I will take credit for being the first in my friend circle to discover Thin Lizzy thanks to Detroit Rock City. So getting this home and hearing it for the first time, there's so much great stuff on here. Personally speaking, Running Back is just one of those songs that I feel in my heart. I love when Phil does these light, jaunty kind of rock songs, and Running Back is just so it feels good. It feels good. And as corny as some people say it is, I really love Romeo and the Lonely Girl. I can't help it. I just
Oh,
love that song. These are very catchy songs, but you've also got Warriors, The Boys Are Back in Town, Cowboy Song, and of course, Emerald. Wow, like there's some amazing stuff. Angel on the Coast is another great one. Like really all great songs on this album. I can't disagree with anything you said. I think if I remember correctly, the remixes on disc 2, this is when Joe Elliott starts to become involved and Joe Elliott helmed some of
right.
their remixes. It's not on the back, but I think this is some of those. Also some more BBC sessions. And again, the box set has been recently issued with this and the next album, and I would love to get that to complete my collection. That is the last of the Thin Lizzy box sets that I need to complete my collection. From here on in, we have like some pretty cool stuff that you're going to see.
Uh, John, what do you think of the Jailbreak album?
Okay, so like Mike, this was my first studio album by Thin Lizzy, but my first Thin Lizzy release. I'll talk about that in a little bit. And I did get this in the early 2000s because back when I was growing up, in the glory days of classic rock, when you had these eclectic playlists, we didn't hear much Thin Lizzy. We heard the three big songs off this album: Boys Are Back in Town, title song, and Cowboy Song, which actually charted in a Hot 100 here in the States. But there is so much to love off this album. This would work if you're just getting into the band. This is a great place to start because you still hear the title song heavy to this day as you do. The Boys Are Back in Town, a top 20 hit here in the States. You hear it at sporting events, you hear it in commercials, you hear it in movies. Bon Jovi did a cover of it way back in the late 80s, I believe. So this is a great starting point, but with all great albums, you have to have great deep tracks. You got to have those legs for those reasons for you to keep coming back to the album or running back to the album in this case. Now, Running Back was originally the single or was intended to be the single off this album. This was a shot at radio, and it's a wonderful song. And you got sax playing on here, along with those wonderful guitar lines. You got this great soulful vocal from Phil on it. Fight or Fall is a fantastic ballad. And from here on in, we're getting great ballads on nearly every album. And you're really getting that great Phil Lynott soulful voice on here. Warriors is just a great rocker with great ebb and flow on it, great riffs. Emerald is an absolute classic. One of the best things that Thin Lizzy has ever written, certainly one of the most enduring songs. And I like Romeo and the Lonely Girl, even if the chorus is a little bit silly, but it's just very catchy. It's very easy on the ears. Angel from the Coast, I love too, because it has that Bruce Springsteen storytelling with the power chords of the Who, which is how we'd always hear about the boys are back in town. But it's very immediate and just grabs you. Excellent track. But everything on here, very good to great. Maybe you'll say boys are back in town, maybe Jailbreak's a little too beat at this point, a little played out. They're still fantastic songs. The song structure on here is wonderful. All the performances are dynamites. They're all playing for the song. A lot of great hooks, lots of hooks on this album. So, yes, this is a classic for me. It's also been my number one at various points in my life too.
Yeah, it's definitely the most common Thin Lizzy studio album. It was their only gold album in the States. Should have been the start of a run of them, but they had a lot of bad luck when it came to touring and just things not falling into place. Certainly wasn't that they didn't follow it up with good albums, but yeah, I never get tired of Jailbreak. I think it's just a bulletproof hard rock song. It's funny because like years later, and we'll talk about the John Sykes era. Again, getting into bands first, the first song on the first Blue Murder album, Riot, is pretty much the same as Jailbreak. It's telling the same story. But as Andy Blacksugar pointed out in the chapter in Martin's book, which I've always thought it, but it was good to hear somebody say it. You know, tonight there's going to be a jailbreak somewhere in the town. Oh, you mean like at the jail? Like, how bad does a town have to be with multiple jails? You know what I mean? So chances are it's going to be at the jail. Anyway, Emerald. Oh man, what a cool song! And I got to say that Ace Frehley did an awesome version of that on Origins Volume One. He had Slash play like on guitar, but it's so and Brian Downey, like just like just you know what an underrated drummer. Um, yeah, I can't add too much to it. It's a great album. At least they had their moment. Uh, and yeah, I mean, Bon Jovi's "Boys Are Back in Town." That was one of the songs on the "Stairway to Heaven, Highway to Hell" album. Artists, under the McGee Entertainment banner, doing songs where someone had died from drug or alcohol abuse, and you can really that's when it sort of become clear. Like, okay, I get, where of course John, such a Springsteen fan, being growing up in Jersey. I can hear the Thin Lizzy, why you love Thin Lizzy too. It's very much the same type of thing, but harder rocking. So that's the big difference. So yeah, like Mike alluded to, very prolific band, two albums in 1976 with Johnny the Fox following Jailbreak. And I think you guys have the same versions, and I have a different one. Mine again is the 1996 reissue. It's digitally remastered along the tray here. That's what the back of it looks like. Oh no, John's got an older version of it. I love this. This is cool. This is what my CD looks like. It can be very different. Yeah. Okay, so Mike, Johnny the Fox. I mean, here's an album that immediately follows Jailbreak. What did you think of this?
This is my second favorite Thin Lizzy album. Again, it to me it's equivalent to Jailbreak, except I think it's even a notch better. Not a bad song. Rocky the Rock and Roll Star, Johnny the Fox meets Jimmy the Weed, which was the only song of Thin Lizzy's that I could seem to get to cross over to the younger generation that I worked with at the record store. They love that tune. Johnny the Fox meets Jimmy the Weed, Boogie Woogie Dance, that's so heavy.
Yeah,
The title,
talk about a misnomer. It's like sha la la. Talk about a
right?
misnomered song.
Yeah, if we were doing a
Right.
list show on song titles that don't match the vibe, Boogie Woogie Dance would be absolutely one of them. One of the first Thin Lizzy songs I ever heard in my life would have been Massacre because Iron Maiden covered that back in 1988, and it sounds like an Iron
Right.
Maiden original, like
Yeah.
it's just one of those songs where it's like you can really hear how Thin Lizzy influenced Iron Maiden. Um, don't believe a word. I don't need to say anything about that song. That's just one of those Thin Lizzy songs that's I hope everybody knows that one. And Fool's Gold. We talked about the soft songs. There's one. Fool's Gold has that vibe. And it also has that spoken word storytelling
Yeah.
thing recurring from those early Thin Lizzy albums. Once again, we've got some Joe Elliott remixes on the second disc, more BBC sessions, some instrumental run throughs, and an unreleased Scott Gorham composition called Scott's Tune.
Cool. John.
So for me, this currently is my favorite Thin Lizzy record. Yes, this came out the same year as Jailbreak because Phil had caught hepatitis and they couldn't tour. So he wrote this album while he was recovering. This is a wicked album. It's diverse as well. We got a lot more shades of funk on here, particularly on Johnny the Fox meets Jimmy the Weed. We got three wonderful ballads on here, but they all have different meanings to them. Like Borderline is a autobiographical song. This is this is Phil singing about what's going through his head as he's going through his addiction. And you would get songs like this for the rest of their career. This was supposed to be a concept album, and then they kind of went away from the concept after a while. But that's why you had Johnny, and then you have a song called Johnny the Fox Meets Jimmy the Weed. Rocky is just a balls out rocker. Don't believe a word. Yes. It's cutting, it's driving, very melodic, 2 minutes and 19 seconds, and that's all you need.
Yeah.
And then later, and I don't know if it was around the same time, but Gary Moore recorded a version of this, totally different, very slow and brooding. But this just comes in, just kicks your butt. Fool's Gold, one of my favorite Thin Lizzy songs. Those unison guitar lines are wonderful. This is a song based on the piano. Potato famine in Ireland back.
Piano famine.
Yeah,
All the pianos were dying.
right. Yeah, piano. There you go. But
Sorry.
Old Flame has those beautiful unison guitar lines, wonderful vocal from Phil on there. Massacre. Yeah, listen to that rhythm section of Phil and Brian on here. It is wicked. Great song goes over really well live too. Sweet Marie, that's a tearjerker ballad. The solos on there. You got those strings in the last verse, or right before the last verse in the bridge, which are excellent. And then Boogie Woogie Dance, Phil's use of wordplay on here, along with that wicked delivery by the band, is killer. Love this album. This is fantastic.
Yeah, it's another strong album. I mean, they're hitting their stride now. Yeah, don't believe a word. It says everything it needs to say in 218. You don't. It's not one of those ones. It doesn't need to be any longer. You've made your point. It doesn't feel like it's that short though. It's complete. Def Leppard do a good version of it on Yeah. That is the one they do, isn't it, Mike?
They definitely do it.
Okay. I thought so, but sometimes the brain doesn't. One thing I find interesting, and again, here's a band that influenced so many bands that I liked, and I was late getting into the actual band. Um, Old Flame. Now, Phil Lynott must have crossed. They must have crossed paths with Journey at some point, because I know that Journey's "Raised on Radio," which came out in '86, there's a dedication to Phil Lynott in there. But also, when Steve Perry put his second solo album out in 1994 for "The Love of Strange Medicine," it's not an album. It's very mellow. I like a few of the songs on it, and one of the songs I do like was one of the singles, "Young Hearts Forever." And there's a section at the end where Steve Perry does a little bit of a Phil impression. He goes, "She was an old flame of mine. I remember, I remember." And now when hearing this, I was like, okay, well, that's what he was talking about. I knew he was doing an impression of Phil Lynott, but I didn't realize it was that specific. Anyway, good album. And yeah, I mean, in the UK, it's a different story, right? I was like, gosh, Thin Lizzy, of course. But over here in North America, it's still a matter of educating people, right? And saying, yes, boys are back in town. That's the band, and that's representative of what they sound like, but dig deeper, and you'll be glad you did. Um, Next album, 1977. It's, I would think it was a cool cover if I didn't know the backstory. I don't understand why, when the band was in turmoil with Brian Robertson, why they didn't just go with a conceptual cover rather than a band photo. But it's a very stark image, Bad Reputation. Now, the version I have is weird, and I've got two like this. It looks every bit like a Rock Candy issue, but it is not. Nowhere on here does it say Rock Candy, and I'm not sure why that is. Maybe somebody out there knows. Was it supposed to be? Now, John's obviously got a much older issue of it, which is very cool. I like what they did with the disc itself. This is usually considered to be one of their strongest albums, but I'll let Mike take it from here. What do you think of the Bad Reputation album? Does Bad Reputation have a good reputation?
Well, first of all, I just want to point out that it actually it matches the deluxe editions. The only difference is that the font on this is in italics. Sorry, on this is in italics. Otherwise, it really does match the previous deluxe editions.
Okay.
Um, I love this album. There is no 2 CD version, which is why I have this. Lots of bonus tracks regardless. I love this album. Soldier of Fortune. My God, that's one of my favorite Thin Lizzy songs, and it's the opener. And what a strange opener, it's like
Yeah.
a slow, kind of brooding opener. Sounds more like a closer. But that was the opener. Opium Trail, the title track, Bad Reputation. Southbound, I love that song. My absolute favorite on this song is the sax inflected Dancing in the Moonlight. It's caught me in a spotlight. I always get chocolate stains on my pants. Like, it's such a strange lyric, but yet it sticks out in your mind. You remember it forever. I love that song. It's just so romantic, and I think they made kind of a goofy music video for it, if I remember correctly.
Yes, I
They
remember
did.
seeing that on Backtracks on Much Music, and it may be, I think it's the first of their videos I ever saw.
Yeah. Now they had a music video for Dedication that like a
Right.
cartridge, the VHS, which I have.
Yeah.
So I saw a lot of those videos from that, and I wish they were shown more because they were cute, and I think it would have helped their exposure.
A
I
little bit like
love,
the early AC/DC videos. They did do them early.
yeah, they did do them early. Probably got played more in the UK than over here. But again, I love this album. Downtown Sundown, Killer Without a Cause. The Woman's Gonna Break Your Heart. Oh, I mean, that's just there's so much going on there as far as those big, thick, Thin Lizzy guitars go. Um, I wish that the album cover was different. You're going through all these cool album covers that are kind of consistent, and then you hit this, and it's like, wow, that's different. And why are the three guys, three guys on the back? But and again, even though it's not available as a 2 CD edition, I hold it in as high esteem as the previous two albums, really. I think
Well,
it's like,
maybe when the 50th anniversary comes,
yeah,
there will be.
the pattern indicates that it would probably come in another one of those box sets, but we will see one of those box sets coming soon. But that's all I have to say about Bad Reputation.
John?
So this continues the winning streak here. We still have a lot of diversity on this album. We have a lot of regality in the way this album opens and it closes. There is this cerebral feel in its presentation, particularly the way Dear Lord ends with those studio effects and those strings. Dear Lord is the closer, and the chorus on there is wonderful. And it's a very autobiographical song by Phil, which is very, very cool. Opium Trail discontinues the songs of about drinking and drugging yourself and to untimely death. Unfortunately, with Phil, it's another song in that vein. But Rocks Like Hell, Southbound should have been a hit here in the States, in my opinion. I mean, it's just very melodic. It's got everything you like that you love about Thin Lizzy with those unison guitars. Very memorable verses on here. Very cool song. Very, very melodic. Dance in the Moonlight, which was the single, and it's a cool tune. But now we're going back into the R&B
Yeah,
with
this could have been a nightlife.
right. It could have been a nightlife, absolutely. We got those snappy horn lines on there. Bad Reputation is one of the most wicked songs they've ever recorded. And the great stop start rhythms there in the chorus. The drumming on here is magnificent. Brian Downey's, and again, is what when Tim said, one of the most unheralded great drummers. This is a great example of how awesome he can be. I mean, he played for the song, but if you need something driving, he really, really brought the second side again, kind of like Fighting. It's more of a grower side as far as the songs go because you got That Woman's Gonna Break Your Heart, which bounces between the unison lead guitars and acoustic guitars. It's got a very poignant chorus, very biting, but melodic at the same time. Downtown Sundown's closer to a ballad on here. Very, very different, very tranquil, but very, very cool. And Killer Without a Cause is awesome as well. It's interesting on this song after the chorus is over, they break down into a harmonica thing, which takes you back to the country more or less. Very, very cool album. The only thing about this album I'm not a fan of, the recording's a little inconsistent, I think. I don't think it had as expressive a production as you had on the previous albums. But all told, this is still a 9 out of 10 for me. There's still so much on this album that I love.
Yeah, I'd agree on the production. It's interesting because like the 276 albums were both produced by John Alcock, but this one they worked with Tony Visconti, which
Yes.
was a bigger name, but yet, yeah, I don't think it sounds quite as good. Or you're right, it's not as consistent. It sounds like it was recorded in different places, and maybe it was recorded piecemeal, because there was that tension. But yeah, the title song is really really cool. Tesla do a good version of that, by the way, on one of the Reel to Reel albums. Again, another example of a band I was into first, heavily influenced by Thin Lizzy, a two guitar band. But what's brilliant about it is like when Phil says turn yourself around, that's literally what Brian's doing. He's doing turnarounds.
Yes.
It's very technical, and you don't need to know that to enjoy the song, but it's just kind of cool. That's what he's doing. Um, Once again, I got to shout out Andy Blacksugar because he's like me. You get stuck on things that just don't make sense. And when Phil says I'm going southbound, that's redundant. You're either southbound or you're going south. You don't need to say I'm going southbound. But again, like Romeo and the Lonely Girl, he could sell those lyrics that no other, they sound unfinished. They sound like they need, tightened up. But no, he sells it. And it works. Yeah, "Dancing in the Moonlight" is a cool little song. What a diversion for them though, and I think it was a pretty big hit in the UK and Europe. But if that was the first thing anybody heard from them, would be a bit of a shock. You know. So next up, that takes us to one of the legendary albums in their career, and also one of the legendary '70s live albums. I heard about this album a long time before I actually heard it. Live and Dangerous. This once again is a 1996 reissue, on actually on Vertigo, and it's one of those albums that when something you hear about it and you hear about it and you hear about it and you hear about it, sometimes it doesn't live up to the hype. Now, John, do you have a Warner Brothers CD?
Yes, this is a Warner Brothers CD.
Yes. That's one of those weird. That's one of those weird things where a band is on two completely different record labels in different parts of the world. Dire Straits were like that too. Like
Mm-hmm.
their albums in the States were on Warner Brothers, but even in Canada, where they're normally the same as the States, they were on Polygram. Anyway, this live album, I think, lives up to its reputation because, like, I've only probably heard it in the last 7 years or so, but it really brings the versions of those songs to life. It's a great set list. It's basically hitting all of the highlights you would want them to hit. Not a lot of early stuff, but of course, like you said, the rocker comes into its own on this album. Um, Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't really have much to say about it other than I do get why so many people love this album. Mike, what do you think of the Live and Dangerous?
Oh, much like you, I knew the reputation, the bad reputation of the album long before I heard the album. And I'd also heard the stories that it was largely reconstructed in the studio after the fact. And I don't care. I
Name me
love
a
Kiss
live album
Alive.
that doesn't get said about.
Right. There's very, very few live albums that are not heavily reconstructed in the studio. That's just a fact. And if you do want, you've got this now. And this is
Yeah.
8 discs. And I haven't even opened it yet because there's just so much Lizzie stuff coming out right
Thank
now. We're
goodness they
living,
recorded so much, though. I mean, because
yeah,
you've only got one shot to do it, so much of it's been preserved, which is great.
right. And now this one has 3 discs. This one's got a DVD as well, but it also has 2 bonus tracks, Opium Trail and Bad Reputation. Um, Love the album. I think we do get some of these versions being the definitive versions of the songs. Um, I'm thinking about Cowboy Song, Rosalie.
Rosalie, I think.
I also think this version of Dancing in the Moonlight, the live version, is really, really good. I think a lot of these songs rival the studio versions. I really do.
Yeah.
And I one day I'll dive into that and check out all the outtakes and the full concerts that are included in that. But for now, I've still got a lot of music to digest. So on to John.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks, guys. Yes, this is considered one of the great live albums of the 1970s and in rock, and for good reason. The performances on here are wonderful. We get a little bit of everything except for the first 2 albums. We don't get anything off them, but we get great versions of the songs that were originally on Jailbreak, the opening track going into Emerald. Those songs are wicked. Those solos, the call and response on the guitar solos on Emerald sound magnificent. The version of Southbound on here, the only song from Bad Reputation, is very good. Rosalie into the cowgirl song, and then back into Rosalie again. It's very, very cool. It goes over well live. What you really hear on this album is Phil Lynott or Lynott or Lynott. I mean, I've said it all different ways.
I've heard it a million ways too.
Yeah. And his charisma was
Yeah.
endless. He was a dynamic frontman, a wonderful songwriter, wonderful bass guitar player, but his charisma was off the charts. One of the finest frontmen out there. We just don't hear about him because a lot of times when we talk about a frontman, it's a lead singer who's not playing an
It
instrument.
doesn't play an instrument. Yeah.
Right. So, but you have a great selection of songs on here. The version of Massacre is absolutely wicked. Still in Love with You is wonderful in both Phil's vocal and the wonderful guitar solos. We get a nice selection of songs from Johnny the Fox. Johnny the Fox meets Jimmy the Weed. We're going into the more funk feel here. Cowboy Song into The Boys Are Back in Town. To me, when they go right into that song, it's one of the most exciting moments in rock and roll.
Yeah.
And they do this live if when they go back out on tour, because the Thin Lizzy name's still out there. Scott Gorham's still involved with it. Once in a while, when they go back out and tour, they still do it the way they did it on this album. Suicide is wicked. You're getting a nice selection of tracks here because you're getting tracks from the albums that didn't really sell, like Fighting and Nightlife. Sha-la-la goes into that wicked drum solo. Not a long drum solo, but strong. Baby Drives Me Crazy is the only song on here that I'm not crazy about. Pardon the pun. I would have preferred another Thin Lizzy song from an original album, but we get to hear Huey Lewis on here playing harmonica.
I know. Isn't that weird?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because Clover, he was in Clover and they were opening the shows on this tour.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a cool song to use as far as doing your band introductions, although they would do Are You Ready later
Yeah.
as the band intro song. And the rocker is wicked because he's arguing with the crowd. they're yelling for the rocker. He's going, no. And they're yelling the rocker. Phil's like, no, I'll do this song. It's called the rocker. And then they go into it. But wicked versions. Again, a lot of these songs are the definitive versions. We got a again another wicked version of Don't Believe a Word. A lot of times we're sticking close to the originals. There's just more fire and venom in these tracks. And as Mike was saying, maybe a lot of this was re-recorded in the studio. But my thing with a live album is, does it feel live? Does it give me the feeling that I wish I was there? And this does in spades to me. I love this live album. And I'm
Yeah.
glad we got a double live album too. But
Yeah.
because
That is kind of surprising, really, because a lot of bands that hadn't quite made it, you got a single live album.
that's true. But fortunately, that's another thing to ponder. What if they didn't hit with Boys Are Back in Town? Would we have gotten a double live album?
That could be too. Yeah. Um, yeah, good points all around. The other thing that's cool is that some of this album was actually recorded in Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Next up, 1979, Black Rose, a rock legend. This is the only one that I have that's one of the Metal Blade reissues from the late 80s, early 90s. So yeah, we've all got different versions of this one. CD looks very cool. It's hard to tell. It doesn't show up very well, but it's got the graphics on it. Great Jim Fitzpatrick artwork. And so I got a lot I want to say about this one, but Mike, what do you think of the Black Rose album?
So Gary Moore returns to the band, and we have his only full studio album. I love it. This was the hardest of all the Thin Lizzy albums for me to acquire, both the original CD and the following deluxe edition. Very hard to acquire. I think a lot of these deluxe editions weren't issued in Canada, and I had to import some of them from Europe at ridiculous prices. Um, Do Anything You Want To is a song that's very important to me. I love the message of it, but I love the
Yeah.
and the music video when it's the four guys playing the timpanis. It's really cool. It's really cool. That's a great music video. Um, it makes me feel good, that song, and I think the message is there too. You're
Yeah.
not their puppet on a string. You can do anything if you want to. And then there's some Elvis going on in
Yeah.
there as well in the
Elvis is
voice.
dead. The King of
King of
Rock and
Rock and
Roll is
Roll is dead.
dead.
That's kind of out there,
Yeah.
but I guess
And if you keep playing, oh, it's the one for the money.
um this is the toughest street in town. That's just such a hook. That's a great hook. Um then we have the song that I don't want to talk about because I don't like it. Then we have Waiting for an Alibi. We have The Other Sarah, which is really light and joyful, I guess, and very
Like a
different.
lullaby.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
great. Got to Give It Up is a complete 180 in terms of tone. It's kind of darker, but still very catchy. Get Out of Here is great with Love, and of course, Rose and Dove, Black Rose, a rock legend. Broken down on the back here, it's listed as all different parts: Shenandoah, Will You Go Lassie Go, Danny Boy, and the Mason's Apron. I don't know if it's broken down on yours like that, but on mine it is. That's just the Thin Lizzy rock epic, and there's a lot to absorb there actually in that song. And I'm not really familiar with a lot of Irish culture, Irish legends and things like that. So for me, I'm just kind of I'm sure I'm just skimming the surface of what he's talking about in that song. But I love the sound of it. John used the word regal, I believe, earlier regarding one of these. I think Johnny the Fox. I get a lot of that regal sound on the title track Black Rose. It's just a very, very big song. And then in the end, in the fade out, you can hear him singing about the whiskey and the jarro. Lots of bonus tracks on this. We have Just the Two of Us, Night in the Life of a Blues Singer, long version, Rockula, aka Rock Your Love, slow version of Don't Believe a Word. I think we talked about that earlier.
Yes.
Um, so here it is on this. We have the toughest street in town, different versions, and then all kinds of demo sessions. So once again, these are such great values, and it was a shame that they don't issue these in larger quantities. It's frustrating to collect these because, we've talked about the late tax before, and if you didn't pre-order these right when they came out of print, out of luck.
It's like they only made so many.
They only made so many and they only intended to. Yeah.
Yeah. John?
So to me, this is the last of that great run from 73 to 79. And I got some couple personal stories with this album. Do what anything you want to with those with that heavy timpani and in there. I saw Thin Lizzy in 2011. Now, this would be the Thin Lizzy that would morph into Black Star Riders.
Yeah.
But they had Scott and Brian Downey in the band. By the time they went as Black Star Riders, Brian Downey had left. So they had, this was in 2011. They had Scott, they had Brian, they had Ricky Warwick on vocals, and he's still in Black Star Riders. And they had Marco Mendoza on bass. And for that tour, they had Vivian Campbell on lead.
Oh, right. Yes, I knew that. Yes.
Well, I'll tell you
Which
what,
must have been a thrill for him.
he said that for all I've done in my life, I've always wanted to be the guitar player in Thin Lizzy.
Yeah.
So anyway,
They also had Darren Wharton on keyboards.
Oh, thank you. You're right, Mike. They did
Yeah.
have Darren Wharton. Thank you for reminding me of that, because they did Angel of Death that night, which we'll be talking about shortly. And that was a highlight of that show. But they had the timpani drums on stage when they did Do Anything You Want To, which was awesome. So I love this album, and I know a lot of people don't like the song S&M, and it hasn't aged well lyrically, but musically, I just think it's a burner. But it's very, very funky. But yes, it's vocally, lyrically, it's not going to go over well in these times. I mean, it's very it's very personal and sensual and autobiographical. I could say that's all I could say. Waiting for an Alibi should have been a big hit in the States. It was a big hit in the UK. It hit the top 10, I believe. But this song has got so many great hooks to it. I love another great story song from Phil. Phil was a master lyricist. That's another thing that doesn't get talked about often enough. Another one of those great story songs, but with so many great hooks to it, whether it's the guitar line or that bass line that's driving the track. Awesome. Sarah, yeah, it's like a lullaby, but this one Phil wrote for his daughter. Got to Give It Up, another song about personal decadence. Like I said, we've been getting them every album at this point, but it's very poignant lyric, but very catchy as well. Get Out of Here, I believe Phil wrote that with Midge Ure from Ultravox. That's very, very catchy. It sounds a little like an outlier here. It's just a really catchy song. With Love, those unison guitar lines are wonderful. Excellent. Rojinda, Black Rose. Yes, that was the snippets of the traditional Irish songs in this, combined with what Phil wrote as well. That Gary Moore solo is magnificent. Vivian did that solo that night. And I'm getting a little emotional because I remember seeing it. It was the last song they did that night. It was in their second encore. And yes, this is one of the classic Thin Lizzy songs, and it's just a very driving rhythm. But it's very much singing about the Irish tradition, but it has everything that you love about Thin Lizzy, because it's a great story song, has the great unison guitar lines. Everything's very memorable, and then we get into that unaccompanied solo, and then when the drums kick in, it just builds and builds and builds, and then it just stops, and then we go back into Phil's vocal again, and then we go right back. We go back to the races again with that fast delivery and that long fade out with all the ad-libs from Phil. So yeah, this is a wonderful album that I love for a lot of different reasons. Not just the songs, of course, but the experiences with seeing them live as well. So yeah. This is another one. It's a good starting point as well, because you've got a lot of songs that are really melodic. Phil's voice, you're starting to hear a little bit of the wear and tear on it, but he still sounds good. And you still have the great diversity here. And that's ain't that bad. So
This is my favorite Thin Lizzy album by far. I listening to them all, I remember listening to this one and thinking, Okay. I'm really glad I got into this band's catalog because now I've heard this album. It's my favorite. I just think this is a killer album, and it is a good starting point because it's accessible. There's nothing really. I mean, you get to the title song at the end, and that's very expansive. But up until then, it's just a fairly conventional set of hard rock songs. Well played. I think that yeah, do anything you want to. I mean that the timpani, that's a hook. I mean it's a different tempo, but I mean, Twisted Sisters were not going to take it. Like it's just you start off with that big flourish. Classic, twin lead. They love doing those the shuffles. Down, 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 down. Like it's not that different than The Boys Are Back in Town. Toughest Street in Town is just a good riff rocker. I do like the song that shall not be named. I think musically it's super catchy. I love the fact that Phil's got that phaser on his bass. Like a jungle ticker. You can hear those, he's just playing the one note, but it's doing that surging thing. Yeah, Waiting for an Alibi, so good. Yeah, Sarah's a nice it's sometimes it's called My Sarah. It is on my CD here to differentiate it. But there's a part in the middle of that. I don't know how familiar you guys are with Max Webster, but you know the part where it goes into the like dun 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 dun. That one part there reminds me of Max Webster. Not any one song in particular, but it just does for a second. And you get the really high. I'm not describing it very well, but that one section.
I hear it.
Got to give it up. Yeah, got to give it up. Is got the coolest. I don't even know what you'd call that riff because it's sort of a melodic, but but it's so rhythmic, drives it along. Get Out of Here is great. I mean, Phil can take one word and make a hook out of it, like he did with Fighting. But I like at the end of it, it goes out. Like,
Yeah.
it sticks to you. With Love is good. I like the sort of phaser on the guitars, the dun dun, like just those open chords and let them ring. It's a good like mid tempo one. Yeah, Black Rose Rock Legend is just so cool. Like, first of all, I mean, it's got a hard rock. If you liked Emerald, this is like the deluxe version of Emerald. But yeah, it's got all of those, you can dig into the stories of, young Kilcullen and but then, he just, Van is still the man and like he's doing all those references to songs that, generally most people think of when they think of Ireland. I just think it's a fantastic album. Um, yeah, I would have no problem saying that if you're going to listen to a Thin Lizzy album, go get Black Rose. It's not unrepresentative. I just think it's just really, really strong from start to finish. So now we enter the 1980s with Chinatown. So this is I got an older CD version of this. Yeah, it's got Vertigo. Yeah, I think ours is the same, John. Mine's on Vertigo. And
Yeah.
Mike, yeah, it's same. It's got that same design. Yeah. So Mike's got a deluxe version. Mike, what do you think of Chinatown?
So we have a member change here, and we have Snowy White replacing Gary Moore. And
Yep.
Brian Downey looking very, very slick with the short hair there. Love it, love it.
Yeah.
I don't love the album as much as I really wanted to because I loved the song Chinatown, and I was like, man, I got to hear this album. That song is vicious. Had a great music video, but it also has my favorite Brian Downey drum hook of all time, the boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
Um, I've always considered Brian Downey kind of similar to Ian Pace in a way for the way that he can play some songs with really heavy drum hooks.
Yes.
That's an
Yes.
example. But on this album, really, that's the only song that I really come back to. There's some other good stuff on here. Killer on the Loose. Um, I don't really care for Sugar Blues. They were going in that more bluesy direction, and there was some hit and miss for me. Chinatown. Um, I'm looking at it. I haven't played this album in a long time, and I don't even remember how a lot of the songs go. But on the B sides, we have some pretty good stuff. We have live versions of stuff like Dear Miss Lonely Hearts and Got to Give It Up, Killer on the Loose, um, some sound check stuff. So again, another great deluxe edition, but not my favorite Lizzy. Great album cover.
Yeah,
I
and the
think that,
back cover is wicked.
yeah,
Yeah.
I just think, I don't know, that title track, it made me expect more than I ultimately got for myself.
Yeah. John.
Okay, for me, this is when the creative juices were running out. First half of the album, I think, is very good. I love the title track. It to me, I always say it's like the little sister to Bad Reputation because it's got that similar delivery to it. It's very, very wicked. It is killer. Sweetheart is more pop, but those unison guitar lines are very, very cool. It's a very catchy song. We Will Be Strong is a decent opener. They usually start out their albums on fire. And this one, I don't think, I mean, it's decent. It's not a great opener. Sugar Blues, yeah, we got that wicked bass line. But again, we got another lyric talking about decadence, personal decadence again. Killer on the Loose, which was a top 10 hit in the UK based on what was going on in the UK, because there was a killer on the loose literally at that time. But it's a catchy song. It's a song that they did live when I saw Thin Lizzy in 2011. Very, very memorable track. Now from here, yeah, you having a good time, I feel is beneath them. It just, after we had so many great albums and great songs, we get something that sounds almost nostalgic, and they're in their early 30s.
Yeah,
And it just seemed
a
like
little premature.
it was premature. And I think Phil's thinking, my life is not going to be long. So he was going into a song like this at that point. I never cared for this track. Genocide, I like a lot more. I like musically, lyrically, it's a little awkward, but it's still a cool tune. Didn't I has the Mellotrons on there. It's a nice ballad. Hey You, okay, as a closer. Yeah, there are some very good songs on here, but it's not the first album I would go to. I did talk about this on the Contrarians as far as part of a panel. My opinion on the album hasn't changed since I did that show, but it's a decent album, but it's not up to Thin Lizzy's usual high standards.
Yeah, I can't add anything more than other than yeah, the title song is far and away the best song on here, and really the only song worthy of that Thin Lizzy, upper echelon, right? That they usually occupy, that sort of elevated status. Everything else, I mean, a new rock band coming out with a bunch of those songs would be like, hey, that's a good start. It doesn't sound like, a band that's been pumping them out, and they were on the road all the time, just in an album a year, sometimes two. The other thing, the thing about Sweetheart is that it almost sounds too much, the phrasing in it sounds too much like With Love. The way that they sing, the way that Phil sings the chorus, it's like With Love, Sweetheart. Like it's kind of, it's almost like, Killer on the Loose is good, but man, I'm really surprised they didn't get more crap for that lyric, given, because it doesn't really come off as sensitive. It comes off as like, Phil the lady killer or whatever, and yet there was a literal, yeah, the Yorkshire slasher or something like that. I think I saw a documentary on it. I don't know if he was the one that was killing all the nurses, but yeah, it was bad. But anyway, yeah. So ends that one. Next up, now our friend Martin Popoff. I know he said many times this is his favorite Thin Lizzy album. And Renegade. Mine is like my Bad Reputation, where it looks like a Rock Candy issue, but it doesn't say Rock Candy anywhere on it. Yeah, we all get the same one. That's funny. What do you think of Renegade, Mike?
Pretty much back to form, with the exception of one track that I don't like, Facts. Um, just it doesn't sound like it belongs on this album. It's just right in the middle of side two, and it's like, whoa, what's going on with Fats? It's a blues. On the same album that we get Angel of Death, which John said he wanted to talk about later, so I'll let him talk about it. But um, you know, I'm a metalhead. I'm a metalhead. I just want to rock and roll. And this is kind of the beginning of the heavy metal sound. I know he's not pictured on the back, but I thought Darren Wharton played keyboards on this album. I might be wrong.
He did, yeah. They should
Uh,
have. It's one of those things where like they're embarrassed to say there's keyboards. Well, don't have keyboards if you're not going to show the player.
Sure. Um, when this album came into my collection, I was kind of like at a low point, working at the record store, and I felt very alone, very isolated. And the song Renegade spoke to me. Even though I didn't have a bike and it wasn't my throne, I really felt like I was the lead character in Renegade, and you'll see that song on a whole bunch of mix CDs that I made like 25 years ago or whatever it was. A lot of my favorite tunes are on here. Hollywood Down on Your Luck is sort of like one of Uncle Meat's favorite songs. It's the kind of thing we sing in the car. I love the way he sings it too. Lady Chance, don't dance when you're down on your luck. Very expressive lead vocal from Phil. You can hear his voice is starting to really, I'm not going to say fade, but it's starting to wear. And I
Yes.
think you can hear that on this and the next album even more. Um, yeah, I think it's a slight return to form, not 100%. I think there's some filler stuff, and I can't remember how some of these tunes go at the end of the song, at the end of the album. It's Getting Dangerous and Mexican Blood. I can't remember how they go because it's been a while. But one of the other CDs that is not available in a two CD deluxe, so that's what I have.
So when Martin and I talked about this album in this book, I had said to Martin, I know this is your favorite Thin Lizzy album, but it's my least favorite Thin Lizzy album. And at this point, that would be Shades of a Blue Orphanage. I've gotten to appreciate this album a little bit more because the highs on here are very high. And that high, one of those highs would be Angel of Death. And I got to appreciate this song more when I saw them in 2011 when the stage went dark and you heard that long keyboard intro from Darren before they went into that main theme. One of the few songs I think that you will hear where the keyboard actually makes the song heavier than it is. The keyboards add a lot to this, which is a really driving, galloping rhythm in the song. It's another story song here. Yes, Phil's vocals, you really hear the wear and tear at this point. But Angel of Death is a top 10 song for me by them. I just love the ebb and flow. I love the drama. I love the spoken word parts when they go through the solos and then they go back in and you got that little musical bridge there with the keyboards and just the bass and the drums. And then Phil doing his spoken word thing, but then before they go back into the chorus, you go down, down into the ground. It is just so dramatic yet so driving. It is a fantastic song. To me, the clear highlight on the album, but I do love Renegade. It's funny because you listen to this first song that's like so emotional and powerful, and then we get very mellow and tranquil. But a nice vocal here from Phil, almost gentle at times. It's very, very cool song, but it's a very different song. It's a long one too, but it keeps you engaged the whole time. It's mellow by Thin Lizzy standards, but very good. Pressure Will Blow. It's another solid track on here. We got some solid tracks on here, and then I'm gonna get into some songs I'm not too crazy about, like Leave This Town. And I say this in this book, Honesty is No Excuse, and I've said this in an Amazon review. To me, this sounds like Molly Hatchet came in the studio, recorded the song, Phil did the vocal, and they put it out as a Thin Lizzy song. To me, this just sounds like straight up boogie rock. And I like Molly Hatchet, but not in my Thin Lizzy. But you know, it's a nice rock song, but okay. Now Hollywood Down Your Luck, which was a single. This is a very, very cool song. It's got a very memorable chorus on here. Great lyrics from Phil. Very, very cool. And then from here, the creative juices again, I think, are running out. And another thing we could talk about here is that Phil was writing for his solo albums around this time too, just as they had on Chinatown. So it was to the point where the musicians were like, okay, well, what album's this going to be on?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not crazy about the rest of this album. I do like Fats. It's an outlier. It proved that they can try something different. We're going into a jazz direction on here, and I like it. I don't love it, but you know, it's a good effort. But the rest of the songs, I just don't think work very well. I see a track, an ending album ending track called It's Getting Dangerous. I'm waiting for some big anthem. And we don't get it. It just sounds so reined in at this point. So, not high on this album, but Angel of Death, Hollywood, killer.
Um, yeah, I pretty much agree with that. I think those are the main two songs for me. Angel of Death is surprisingly heavy for them. Although the production, this produced by Chris Sangarides, it doesn't sound like one of his albums. Um,
I don't think so.
yeah, it doesn't have the heaviness that you'd expect. It's very edges are smoothed off. Hollywood is a really cool song. Yeah, that was actually because the Billboard mainstream rock chart didn't start until 1981. This is one of their only songs that charted on there. I don't think it charted very high, but it is catchy. It does
Right.
have a good hook to it. Yeah, it's hard to remember the rest of the album. Although, like one of the bonus songs, "Trouble Boys," was released as a single, oddly enough, and that to me doesn't sound like that. Sounds like something that should have been on one of Phil's albums. And really, the only real thing I remember about it is the sort of canned the canned hand claps,
Right.
which kind of must have sounded dated even then. Yeah, I don't I don't get, it could be the time that it came out. I don't know or how that could be anybody's favorite, but like I said, maybe it just hit him at the right time, which sometimes albums do. Uh, so now that brings us to the final Thin Lizzy, and we're not nearly done, but the final Thin Lizzy studio album, Thunder and Lightning, 1983. I've got an old Vertigo CD. Same. A lot of them have this pattern on them. So Mike's obviously got, yeah, he's got another one of those deluxe ones. John and I seem to have the same version. Mike, your thoughts on Thunder and Lightning?
My favorite Thin Lizzy album. Because, like I said, I'm a metalhead. I'm a metalhead. I just want to rock and roll. And this is the John Sykes era. And initially, my go-to version of this was a vinyl reissue that came with the live EP. There was an original version that came with a live EP, and they did a reissue. But the live EP is included on this, along with a whole ton of demos. And I really loved the sound of Heavy Lizzy with John Sykes doing his, you know. I
Yeah,
mean, it's a clear shift. It's a sudden, drastic, clear
yeah.
shift. This is not. There's no transition between this and the previous albums at all. It's
No,
just like,
it's
here we go.
abrupt.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
abrupt. Um, I love every song. I think so. Thunder and Lightning title track. I love that song. Phil's basically just shouting. He's not singing. He's shouting. But the soloing on that, from Darren Wharton's keyboard solos to John Sykes' guitar solos, like we're in shred territory now. They've done shred before. I'm thinking of songs like Chinatown. There's some shred going on there, but Sykes takes it to a whole other level. This is the one. Heavy. Boom, 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 boom. Brutal. Love that song. Sun Goes Down. That kind of takes me to Judas Priest, Defenders of the Faith, when the goes down on side two. I get kind of like
Oh, Michael.
similar nocturnal sunsetty vibe on that song. Um, Keyboards being used atmospherically. Holy War. Oh my God. It's almost like the sequel to Angel of Death in a way. We are
Yeah.
chosen. We are one. Love that song. Cold Sweat. Oh, like that was the first song from this album that I heard. And I was like, bam, this is what Sykes era Lizzy sounds like. And a lot of that. Oh, so good. The lyrics kind of strike me. Stone cold sober and cold soul sweat running down. Oh my God. To win pays double, and I got me a heavy bet. Oh my God. Everything about that. It's like, again, the storytelling. He's painting a picture. I don't know how much of that is autobiographical and how much of that is people he knew. I don't know if he had a gambling problem or not along to go with his other addictions, but I love Cold Sweat. Someday She's Gonna Hit Back is probably my least favorite song on the album, but Baby Please Don't Go follows that. That's a pretty good one. I like that one. Got a good chorus, just an overused title. And then my favorite song in the entire album, Bad Habits, because it flashes back to an early rock and roll sound, but with this heavy 80s production. And to me, it sounds the most like Gorham on the album and the least like Sykes. But Bad Habits is the one that I can literally play and then hit reverse and start over again and hit reverse and start over again and play it 3 or 4 times in a row before I get to the final song, Heart Attack, which is like ominous, John
Yeah,
mentioned how many
very.
times he's talking about his life and reflecting his health. And of course, he's at a very low point here. He still had a few years to live, but he was not well, and thus the end of the band. Um, Still, my favorite album. I hate the cover. I think that's an absolute garbage cover. It looks like something that should be like on a low budget, like Grim Reaper album or a Savatage album. Um, we're doing the studded leather motif. I think that's below Thin Lizzy, even though Phil did do studs and leather at various points. Don't like the cover. Love the album. That is my all-time favorite Lizzy. And also just point out at this time, since this is my last, these deluxe editions all have a little portrait of the album cover in the top corner, and they look very, very nice, all lined up together.
Yeah, I know I noticed that because the Renegade, yeah, for
Yeah.
example, has that. Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. Although you'll hate this, Renegade has that, but look, the orientation on the spines is different. Don't you hate
Why?
that?
Why? Makes no sense.
Right.
All right, John.
Okay, I like this album. I don't love it. I've gained more of an appreciation for it when I reviewed Thin Lizzy's catalog on my channel, John the Music Nut. I started to appreciate this album more. But like some of the earlier albums, this is an outlier of an album because now we got John Sykes, and as what has been said often is John Sykes doesn't like to play with others. Rest in peace, John Sykes. But you don't have the unison guitar lines here. You got John Sykes playing Guitar Hero. If you love John Sykes, you'll love this album. It is heavy metal Thin Lizzy. It's a different sounding Thin Lizzy. Again, Phil's voice, it's getting more and more hoarse, but the title track is a burner. The keyboards on here work well. We got a keyboard solo after the wicked guitar solo from John. We still have Darren Wharton here. This is a burner. This is the one is another strong track with a driving rhythm to it. Great chorus on this one. And then The Sun Goes Down. It's very tranquil and very atmospheric, which is really, really cool. Holy War kicks ass. We were talking about Andy Blacksugar a couple times today. I just did a show with Andy Blacksugar on my channel, and we were talking about this song, The Holy War. He was talking about how intricate that guitar line is on there, and it is a wonderful track. Even though with the bass just riding that one note the whole time with that same rhythm, it's more of a dance song, but the chorus is killer. And even though I say it's a dance song, doesn't mean you don't want to hear it. You have to hear it. It has a great message to it. It's very driving beat. The guitar solos on here are magnificent. And Cold Sweat, yeah, comes in, kicks your ass, and gets out. We got some great John Sykes goodness on here with the unaccompanied guitar solo at times. But this is very driving. Megadeth did a great version of this song later on. After this, the only song I really like on here is Bad Habits. And Bad Habits is interesting because it's more of a rock song than it is a hard rock song. It's very, very melodic. And Phil sings this one very, very well, but it's got great hooks on it. The rest of the tracks are, they're all right. Yeah, maybe decent musically, but you don't really remember them well, even after you hear them so many times. I mean, I know how they go because I've heard this album so many times, but there's not really much to recommend. The playing is good. That's about it. But good album, very front loaded, but Cold Sweat, title song, Holy War, Bad Habits, all very, very good.
This might be my second favorite Thin Lizzy album, but that's for a lot of reasons because I am a John Sykes fan. Um, Loved him in Whitesnake. Adore that first Blue Murder album to death, and I think the second one is better than most people remember it. But that first album, I think is a masterpiece. Did he? it's almost like, you can draw all these comparisons, but it's almost like Steve Vai being in Whitesnake. Did it fit? No, but I like the album that resulted from it. Yeah, I'm glad it was a one-off, but I'm glad we have it to talk about. That's kind of what you get here, oddly enough, considering the ins and outs of these bands. If I wasn't a John Sykes fan, but I was a Thin Lizzy fan, I don't think I'd like this album very much at all because it is an outlier. It's the production is really noisy. Again, it doesn't sound like Chris Sangarides' production to me. Then again, when I think of Chris Sangarides' production, I think of Mean Streak, and that has a very singular production. But the drums are like they've got that wet drum sound. It does not sound like Downey, especially the Hollywood. Like it's just that very 80s drum sound. I like it, but it sounds more like a Pyromania type of drum sound than it does anything that Downey had done before. It'll almost be like, and I do agree, he is kind of like Ian Pace in a way. I've never heard Ian Pace's drums recorded quite like that. And probably the closest would be Slaves and Masters, but not really. Title song, instant classic. It is interesting how Darren does that crazy keyboard solo that almost sounds like a guitar. And there is, a sort of a nod to the twin leads where it's like, but then of course Sykes gets to do his thing. I mean, he was just unnaturally talented. Um, The Sun Goes Down is a really, really good song. And I think it's the best one that Sykes sang later on because it sounds like something he would have written maybe for thinking of Whitesnake or his own voice in mind. I think it's really good. It's very moody. And even though it's 6 minutes long, to me, it doesn't lose its momentum. It's very simple, but it's also very cool. Cold Sweat. Cold Sweat is like with another kind of treatment, probably could have been on a previous Lizzie album. It's pretty typical. Like it's not that different than Jailbreak riff wise. It's just that it sounds so much different. It doesn't sound like the work of the same band at all, but it's very cool. I think Someday She's Gonna Hit Back is really cool. I like the lyric. Um, I was very glad to find out that Baby Please Don't Go was an original and wasn't yet another cover of the blues song. And Heart Attack is compelling. It's frightening. It's like watching a movie when you know it's going to end badly, but you're watching it anyway because you like it. But it's like, wish it had been different. But I could see where someone wouldn't like this album much at all that generally likes the band. But like I said, I like it for a lot of reasons. I do think it has some good songs on it. Doesn't sound like Thin Lizzy at all. And Mike's right. Like that title song, Phil, is literally shouting 6 foot 6, about 100. Like, he's just, but again, it's in it. He's going into characters. Like it's like, this is a heavy metal song. You must shout. Um, so there you go. That's my opinion of that. And so ends the recording, the studio career. And I keep thinking every time it comes around to John talking about going to see them. Did I imagine this, or at some point, did Thin Lizzy tour with Tom Hamilton from Aerosmith playing bass for them?
Yes.
Okay. I was like, did I dream that?
Yeah, I think he was in a later lineup with Richard Fortus or something like that.
Okay. Because it's like, it seems to me that, yeah, which was
Yes,
weird, but
he did.
so the next thing to come out came out late 83, and it's got a very, I hate the way they spell it on here.
Yeah, I was
I
going to say the
call
same
I
thing.
call it life, but you can't put an F over a V and expect people to, you want DJs to say go out and buy this. This is one I actually happened to find at Sunrise. It is a reissue. I'm not sure from what vintage. This is what it looks like on the back.
Live double album.
Yeah. And it's the disc looks like that. So yeah, I mean, Mike, what do you think of this as a live album?
Thin Lizzy Alive too. I wanted to like it a lot more. I was like, oh yeah, great, a double live album with all the different eras of Lizzy. Well, not all the eras of Lizzy, because as John alluded to, they don't always play songs from the first couple albums. But I just felt it was kind of a letdown, maybe a little tired. I think the selling point here is that you get all the different guitar players, Snowy White, Gary Moore, Eric Bell, and Brian Robertson returning for a cameo. I think that the running order is great. There's a lot of fantastic songs on here. There's really nothing on here that I wouldn't want to hear. Um, but for whatever reason, it just doesn't jump out at me, doesn't grab me, and I rarely play it. I always go to Live and Dangerous instead. I call it Live Life, but it does bug me, the title, and mine is on Wounded Bird Records. This was, I think, the
Okay.
last original Lizzy album that I needed to fulfill my collection. It was hard to find at a good price, and I was always also seeing it in those fat body cases too. I think this is probably the first copy that I found in a thin case.
Yeah.
Yeah, so unfortunately, that's sort of not a go-to for me, and I would have to again listen intently. Like I want to listen to Thin Lizzy Live Life and see if it clicks this time.
Yeah. All right, John.
Yeah, I still like this a lot, but no, it doesn't touch Live and Dangerous. Really heavy here on Thunder and Lightning. I see 5 tracks here from Thunder and Lightning. We have a few songs here that repeat from Live and Dangerous, such as Jailbreak and Emerald and Still in Love with You and The Rocker and Boys Are Back in Town. We get a decent amount here from Renegade. I think we only have one track here from Chinatown, which is Killer on the Loose. But it's the reason I'm not as high on it is because yes, we don't have the unison guitars so much, but it's because I'm not as big into the latter albums, although I do love Black Rose, but the last 3 studio albums I'm not as high on. But we do get a version of Black Rose on here, which is really, really cool. We got Angel of Death. We get Are You Ready again. So I like it a lot. I don't love it. It's one that I'm going to talk about pretty soon. That's why I don't have the CDs in here. They're in the 5 disc CD changer right now. But it's not essential live. I mean, if you're a big fan and you like the later albums, it's worth the purchase. But I wouldn't. And the performances on here are very good. But again, this is Phil going downhill. The band still sounds tight, but it's if you have to be a big fan of those later albums to really really get into this one, I think.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Like I was just looking. I mean, true to their, I will say this: they were pushing what was then their current album, even though I think it was announced from the outset this would be their farewell tour.
Yes.
But there's 5 out of 9 songs from Thunder and Lightning on here. Yeah, the track listing to me reads like this should be incredible. Like it does have the older songs on it, but it's got all kinds of stuff from Black Rose. It's got stuff from Renegade. It's got stuff from Thunder and Lightning. But yeah, I never listened to it. I was surprised to find it, to be honest with you. So I was excited to get it, but yeah, I never listened to it. Now, the next thing I have is from '91. Does anybody have anything in between then?
Yes, I have one from 1987.
Cool.
And this was my
All right.
second Thin Lizzy CD. The 1991 that we're going to talk about is my first, but this one it's a little different. It has some other songs on it that aren't on the 1991, including the live medley of Rosalie Cowgirl song, Cowboy Song, and The Boys Are Back in Town that John said is one of the most exciting moments in rock and roll. And I agree. And that's why they kept it intact right smack in the middle of this. It also has Yellow Pearl, which was a Lynott solo song. You can see it's Phil Lynott and Thin Lizzy. It has Out in the Fields with Gary Moore. And again, the first time I ever heard Cold Sweat on this. The album ends with Soldier of Fortune, which to me, that's the way to do it. That's the way that song should go at the end. Um, Whiskey in the Jar opens. So that is my 1987 comp.
So, what label was that on, Mike? What's that? The logo that was
This
on
is
that?
on Telstar Records out of London,
Okay, I thought so.
distributed by BMG, distributed by WEA. It says both. Distributed
Yeah,
by BMG,
that's
distributed by WEA.
yeah. It's interesting because I have a best of Deep Purple that came out in 1987, like that one did, on the exact same label. So they must have been doing a bunch.
Yeah.
Um, cool. John, anything?
I have this, but this came out the
Okay, so yeah, let's all talk about dedication. 1991. I do remember seeing this in stores. They were pushing it. Dedication, the very best of Thin Lizzy. And Mike already said this was his first Thin Lizzy purchase. So what do you? So let's hear about it.
So this brings me back to around the Christmas season of 1991 when this album was released and the song Dedication hit the radio. And I had been peripherally aware of this band called Thin Lizzy, but Dedication is the first song by Thin Lizzy that I distinctly recall hearing and knowing it was Thin Lizzy. And I heard it on the radio, and this came in a time, grunge was starting to come in and the old wave of hard rock was definitely fading out. And I personally was getting interested in heavier music and classic bands that I'd missed out on. And I was like, what is this? Because it's so heavy compared to some of the other stuff I was hearing on the radio. It had that, and I was like, how is this an outtake that has never been, completed? I didn't understand that it was, one of Phil's last things that he'd recorded as a demo and it was finished after the fact. But remember hearing it on the radio, and that was when Lizzie first went on my radar. Now, I didn't actually buy it until 1999 when Jailbreak was in Detroit Rock City. But that's my impression, and I still love the title track Dedication to this day. I love it. I played it again this morning. Um, this is not necessarily the best first purchase Thin Lizzy, I don't think. When I first heard it, it does have a lot of slow stuff towards the beginning because it's very chronological. So you get She Knows and Still in Love with You very close to the beginning. And I was like, wow, this band's not as heavy as I was expecting. So it took some time to really get to know the band and the songs. But wow, look at that album cover.
Oh,
Yeah,
And this is coming at the same time that nostalgia was starting to sell. There was a Led Zeppelin box set the previous Christmas. There was a Tommy Bolin box set. Box sets and compilations were starting to become a thing. Rush had just done Chronicles. So it was
yeah,
becoming a really good way to discover these classic rock bands. And I just think it needed some running order tweaking, but it is essential because I don't know if Dedication's on anything else. I don't think
it is.
Dedication. It is?
Yeah,
Okay. Still a very good way to get that song if you do need it for your collection.
yeah. It's a good single disc. John, what did you think of this one?
yes, this was my introduction to Thin Lizzy, actually. I bought this in 99. And I think this the fact that there's 3 songs on here from Nightlife is one of the reasons I really like the Nightlife record, and I always have. Those songs really stuck with me. I don't think it's the greatest introduction because you only got one song on here from Johnny the Fox. I We should have had at least Fool's Gold or Johnny the Fox meets Jimmy the Weed or maybe Sacrifice on here. Or so wait, I got the song. I got the song right there. Massacre. I'm sorry.
Sure. Yeah,
So, but yeah, it's very light on the early material. We got the Whiskey in a Jar single. We got the Rocker from Vagabonds of the Western World. And then from there, more often than not, we're getting 3 songs from each album up until we actually this ends at 1980 before
yeah.
the end.
Skips the last two albums altogether.
Right. Because we get two, well, okay, we get 2 songs from Bad Reputation, and then we get 2 songs from Black Rose. So, I mean, you got a lot of high points here. If you like the early stuff, if you like fighting and you like Nightlife and Jailbreak, you're getting 9 songs between those 3. So a nice introduction. It hits most of the high points, but I think we should have had more from Johnny the Fox on here and more from the last 2 albums as well, even though I'm not as high on those.
Yeah, I agree. And Mike's right. Like, yeah, there was an awful lot of 1991. There were a lot of comps that came out. A lot. Sony did a ton of them. Like that's when you started to see like the legacy imprint on a lot of those things. And yeah, Dedication was pushed as a single. It is interesting that they go right from Chinatown to Dedication with nothing from Renegade or Thunder and Lightning. I suppose for a single disc, it isn't bad, but like it's true. Because I like the fact that it's in chronological order, but maybe this should have been one of those ones. Maybe it should have started off with dedication and then the boys are back in town and then mixed, right? You do get a lot of slow songs in a row. I only recently had it, but I'd already heard everything on it. The next thing I've got didn't come out until 2004. So if either of you guys have anything before then, let this is the place.
Mine comes out in 2000, and I thought you had this.
Oh, I'm in the wrong. I'm in the wrong order. You're absolutely right. Yeah, the next thing I have is 2000, which is this. Yeah, we're only talking, obviously, guys, we're talking about compilations and live albums now. And this was in, I think, sometime in 99. John Sykes, just Scott Gorham decided to resurrect the Thin Lizzy name and go out as a version of Thin Lizzy. I actually first read about this in Classic Rock magazine first came out, which was a really cool magazine out of the UK. Because John Sykes, I mean, he was a hermit. You never heard anything about him, right? I will say this. This was on SPV, which is like CMC or Sanctuary. It was like one of those smaller labels. I mean, I'm sorry, but how cheap does this look? This just, it doesn't look like, it's not great. I don't like the logo they came up with. I wish they'd used the classic logo. Maybe they couldn't. I don't know. But having said all of that, well, go ahead, Mike. You talk about it first.
I'm not a huge fan of this album. It's more just for this part of the chronology. It was cool that John Sykes decided to reform Thin Lizzy and take over on lead vocals. There's three members of Whitesnake with
That's
Marco
pretty
and
crazy that
Tommy.
Tommy Aldridge, yeah, that Tommy
Uh,
Aldridge is, yeah, yeah.
So you got three members of Whitesnake there at various points in their history. You've got a lot of the Sykes era. Obviously, he's going to play a lot of the Sykes era. Why wouldn't he? So you got Sun Goes Down. You got Cold Sweat. I think it's cool they included Are You Ready, which was a B-side. What annoys me the most about this CD, though, is the band introductions, which seem to go on forever. Come on, come on, come on for Tommy Aldridge. You got to do that for all five members, basically. So I think this is a miss. It's just important for me to have this in my collection. So I have some Thin Lizzy with John Sykes singing lead because this is it. That's the only representation of John Sykes singing lead with Thin Lizzy.
Yeah. Okay, John.
I don't have this album. I've only just heard the album. That's pretty much it. The only thing that I have from this point is the acoustic sessions.
Oh, okay. Okay. Um, well, I like John Sykes' voice, and I think that he does I don't think he does a bad job at recreating Phil's cadence. Technically, John Sykes is probably the better singer, but he does a really good job. Like I said, when once I got into Thin Lizzy and I got thinking back to Riot on the Blue Murder album, I'm like, wow, like if there'd been a follow up to Thunder and Lightning, this song could have been on it, because it had that feel, right? I could hear Phil singing it. Um, I'm surprised that Thunder and Lightning isn't on here. It would have been nice, it's not the most adventurous track listing. I know they're playing to fans, it's nostalgia, but I don't know. The Sun Goes Down is cool on here. I like it with John singing and Cold Sweat. Of course, those are the ones that suit him the best. You've got three-fifths of that lineup on here. Having the different rhythm section is weird. I think Brian Downey was initially involved with this, but then he bowed out, and that's how they got Tommy Aldridge. I know Gary Moore was very critical of this, that they're going out there and using the name, but I didn't have a problem with it. I mean, I didn't know enough about the band to care. And then years later, I was like, yeah, I should probably get this. So I don't listen to it. And okay, so finally, I think I've got these in the right order. The next thing I have is from 2004.
You're next then, because mine's 2008.
Okay, so the first thing I ever bought from Thin Lizzy when I decided to get into them was this. This is just simply called Greatest Hits. This is in one of those weird cases that came out in the UK that they're like, I don't even know what you'd call them.
I call it
And
super
it's
audio
very hard.
because that's the
Yeah,
kind of case that super audio albums come
yeah.
in.
It's very hard to get the CDs out. It's very hard to get the booklet out with destroying it. But it actually says in the corner, this product is endorsed by the members of Thin Lizzy. So this was a you know, authorized release on Universal. and it's a two CD set, and I think it's actually quite good because it covers. You'd think with a two CD set, you'd get some songs from the first two albums, but you don't. And of course, well, I say that, is the rocker even? Yes, it is, and it's a live version. So yeah, they're really staying away from that. But it's got a lot of songs from Phil's solo albums. Sometimes if I need a pick me up, I'll watch the video for Yellow Pearl because I get a kick out of it. You know, Phil with the samurai attack,
It's what we like.
and putting this tape inside the Walkman so authoritatively. And anyway, yeah. But it's a good mix of songs. It's there. It does cover a lot of territory. Um, One of the cool things it's got on here too is, as you mentioned, it's got Out in the Fields, which was the very first song I ever heard that had anything to do with Thin Lizzy, because Much Music used to play the video with Gary Moore, and then of course
Yeah.
Phil being in the video. I think it's a cool song. Well, the production sounds very 1985, but that's okay. But the solo, holy cow! Like Gary Moore, before he decided he wanted to become a blues man, he was a ripper. Like
Mhm.
he could shred with the best of them. And I like the fact that it did that thing where the camera stays on the guitar neck and everything moves around it. They did that with Meniketti in the Mean Streak video. They did it with Rick Emmett in the Fall of Your Heart. It's a cool effect. It's disorienting, but it's cool. Like the guitar stays stationary. But it's a great song. And it's kind of an honorary Thin Lizzy song. So I'm really glad they included it on here. This is a good primer. And it also has some, like I said, it's got Yellow Pearl, it's got King's Call, it's got Dear Miss Lonely Hearts, Parisian Walkways. So it has songs that make sense to be on here that aren't strictly Thin Lizzy songs. And it does have dedication on here. So that's how I
Okay.
knew that it was that was on at least one other thing. The next thing
There's
I
one I
have, I
missed,
think
Tim.
that's
Tim, there's one I missed
go
from
ahead. Go-
2001. I forgot this because it's in a different
Oh,
pile. 2001, the incredible box set Vagabonds, Kings, Warriors, and Angels, one of the best
oh
box sets out
yes.
there by any band because it has so much unreleased and rare and B-sides and all this, well, first time on CD. Offline earlier, we were talking about You Want It Tough. I'm Tough. And
Yeah.
19 by Grand Slam, the band that followed Thin Lizzy. There's so much good stuff on here, Tim. This is such a great box set. There's like one track that's from a flexi disc. Parisian Walkways is on here. Sarah, Got to Give It Up. Um, some B-sides like Sitamoawea, which I love. I love that
Yeah,
song.
yeah, I like that one. Yeah,
I listened to
that's
that
good.
this morning. King's Vengeance, Try a Little Harder, Romeo and the Lonely Girl. Such a great box set. So this needs to be shouted out. Each disc is a different theme. Vagabonds, Kings, Warriors, and Angels. So fantastic box set from 2001. And there's Phil, he wears that jacket in the Out on the Streets music video, I think. I think.
I thought it was like a red, like it was like a military
Well,
jacket.
I'm guessing
Is he and
because of this.
Gary both have the same one?
And he's got the lapels. You see the anyway,
It's definitely
2001.
similar. Yeah.
And
So
then
the
I
next
go
thing
to
I have is from
2008.
2000. Well, I've got one from 2009, but maybe you've got a different version of the same thing.
Well, 2008, I have two things. Um, Both live. This one's called UK Tour 75. It's a very
Okay.
nice set. Look at that track list there. That's kind of neat. Sound Check Jam, Cowboy Song Derby Blues.
Now, is that
In
official?
Yeah, and it's nice. It's nice. Inner sleeve for the CD and a nice, generous booklet. Look at this booklet here. There's a flyer inside that shows some other stuff available on the same label. Get
MLP.
Yeah, Alex Harvey Trio. But really nice deluxe looking book. Look at those photos. That's great. So this is a fun one, but at this point, the Thin Lizzy catalog becomes very convoluted with different live things and compilations and whatnot. Varying amounts of officiality. This one's on Major League Productions. And
Yeah.
then I have another live one here, and this one was kind of sold as the outtakes from Live and Dangerous, and it's called Still Dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this one actually, Tim, I know you don't buy Air, but this one actually had two two iTunes bonus tracks, which I downloaded and burned to CD. So the two iTunes bonus tracks are Bad Reputation and Emerald. Otherwise, you get these 10 songs. And I've read all kinds of conflicting reviews about this, about how much of this is previously released and available on other things. I don't know. I don't know.
So what
Um,
label
I
is yours on? Because yours looks different than mine.
It's on VH1 Classic Records.
Okay, because I remember Eddie Trunk talking about this on that metal show because he's a huge Lizzy fan. The version I have is on. It just says Thin Lizzy Productions. It's from the UK, and it's live at the Tower Theater, Philadelphia, 1977. And the disc looks different. The disc looks different than yours, and mine has a copyright of 2009 on it.
Yeah, yeah, interesting. Mine, this might have been a UK import. I'm not sure, but there it is. And I'll just show the inner sleeve here for what it's worth. Not a lot of information, which is another thing that people kind of complain about. And a lot of people say the information that you do get in these reissues isn't accurate anyway.
Hmm.
And then my next releases, I have two from 2011.
Yeah, I have one, so I'm guessing one of them is going to be the same.
We were talking about all those BBC
Oh,
versions.
yeah.
Well, here is a massive 7 disc box set. So I wanted to buy the one that Tim had, and it turned out it was out of print, whatever. And then
I'll put
Amazon
this
had,
away. This is a mere two CDs.
yeah, right. That's the one I wanted. It went out of print very quickly, but amazingly, Amazon had this in stock at less than the price that they were asking for the two CDs. So to quote Bart Simpson, I'd be stupid not to do this.
Yeah.
6 CDs and a DVD from Japan. This is a magnificent box set, and it's, like I said, BBC sessions. So it's all of those bonus tracks that we've skipped over on the previous issues, plus a whole lot more. A lot of stuff here that I don't know the titles very well. Ode to a Black Man, Someone Else's Dream. I don't recognize these song titles. So, there's some really cool stuff on here. And then, from the later stuff, you've got a live version of Holy War, um, Baby Please Don't Go. You've got a live version of Fool's Gold here. So much stuff. Randolph's Tango, Return of the Farmer's Son, all the way back to the early days. So, guys, this is going to cost you an arm and a leg now, but and the
It,
BBC
it,
stuff is always well recorded.
yeah, it's
Always.
it's it's all kind of like in '89 when Queen they put out Live at the Beeb,
Yeah.
and then a few years ago they put out On Air, which was all their
Yeah.
BBC appearances. I only have the like the two discs, or I don't know. I've got a
I have the
smaller
six
version of.
disc of that.
Yeah,
Six discs.
yeah. But this one is cool, the two discs, because it does have half cast. It has
Yeah.
Sitamioa, Black Boys on the Corner. Not a lot of different ones, but yeah, very well recorded. That's the only other thing I have, other than as John alluded to, the acoustic session. So, Mike, if whatever you've got.
Yeah. Well, maybe John can tell us all about this 2011 live album with Scott Gorham, Brian Downey, Darren Wharton, Ricky Warwick, Vivian Campbell, and Marco Mendoza. They started putting out these. I don't know if they're considered instant live or what they would be considered, but I have 3 of these Thin Lizzy live albums. I don't know if that's all of them, but there it is, closing with Black Rose. Look at that, eh? Hollywood. They play Hollywood. They play Shalala. Do anything you want to. I guess that would be with the timpanis. And I guess that would be the very first time that they rolled out the timpanis on stage. I'm guessing. I don't know. But look at that, Angel of Death. So this would have been very similar to what John saw.
Yes, that set list is the same. The only difference is they did Killer on the Loose when I saw them, and I don't believe they didn't do Bad Reputation that night. So they
Okay.
flip-flopped those out. The rest of that set list looks exactly the same as what I saw though.
And I think the next 2 that I have.
Oh,
Oh, wait, here's another 2011. Thin Lizzy live at the High Voltage Festival, July 23rd, 2011. So this one does not have Vivian. This one has Richard Fortus on guitar from Guns N' Roses. And this one's only a single disc, I guess. No, it's a 2 disc. I don't know why there's only 1 disc listed on the back, but here's what it looks like on the inside. We have disc 1 on stage. It's upside down. Disc 1 on stage, disc 2 backstage. I'm not sure. Pop this disc into your computer. Okay, for access to VIP videos, photos, and interviews. So it's one disc plus a bonus computer disc and just an abbreviated set list because it was a festival. But they still closed with Rosalie and Black Rose there. And then
Cool.
my last one is from 2012. I don't know if you guys have anything to insert.
No.
Okay, so
No.
here's the 2012 version of Thin Lizzy, another live album, O2 Shepherd's Bush Empire London, two CDs. And it looks like the lineup includes Damon Johnson now on guitar. You can
Okay.
see Damon Johnson
Right.
right there, who ended up in Black Star Riders later on.
Yeah.
Brian Downey, you can clearly see he's on drums. Um, I don't think this is a Tom Hamilton on bass one, though. No, there's Marco. So I don't know. I don't think the Tom Hamilton lineup was ever documented on live CD. I don't know if there are more, but I bought everything of Thin Lizzy that was coming out live that I knew about at the time. So that's why I have those three. And that's all I have until we work ourselves up to the present day.
Yeah, and the final thing that we're going to talk about was came out early in 2025. John and I did a review of it, and it was touted as the first new Thin Lizzy in a long time. So the acoustic sessions, and I really like it. Like I love the way they wrote the name. It's very early 70s looking, very
Hmm.
psychedelic. Now this is Eric Bell. Um, did some new recordings on here. It's got original vocals from Phil, and it's primarily stuff from the first two albums, and I think it's got a couple of like B-sides because I didn't have the song "Here I Go Again" on anything else. But I really like this. I love I love the version of Slow Blues. Mama Nature said. I even don't mind Shades of a Blue Orphanage on here. It's a little shorter, and I like it. I like the fact that it's got Aaron, it's got Dublin. Um, I just really like this album. I know it's not a new album, but I thought it's the closest I'm going to come to buying a new Thin Lizzy release. So I really like this one. What do you guys think of this one, Mike? Mike, start us off.
I don't have a lot to say. I played it this morning before the show, and my highlight was a song for when I'm away or while I'm away. Beautiful strings that really come to the forefront on that. I think Eric Bell did a fine job on this album.
Yep.
I was kind of surprised. It came out of the blue. I didn't know Eric Bell was really still involved with doing Thin Lizzy kind of stuff, but
Yeah.
why not? Sure, why not? These albums are so old at this point. What's wrong with a little refresh? Bring them up to sonic levels of today. They're still good songs and different enough from the original versions for you to say, okay, I'll pick that up and I'll listen to it and I'll augment my Thin Lizzy collection with this new set of remixes. I think in recent years we've seen some really decent remix albums. I won't go into too much detail there, but in the last couple of years alone, we've seen some really top-notch remixes of old music, and I think Eric Bell can be lumped into that pile. So well done. Thanks for giving us a quote-unquote new Thin Lizzy album in 2025.
And I have it. I'm sorry I don't have my physical copy right now. I have no idea where I put it. Just
Yeah, I can attest. He does have it,
I do
and
have
I've
it.
got the proof.
They
Yeah,
disappear in a CD collection, though.
They
That's the
yeah, that's
do.
the
problem.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
when they're in this thin
it's
cardboard.
extremely thin. Like
Yes,
it
Yeah.
does. Yeah,
it's in the rack somewhere, folks. But I did do a review on this with Tim, and I did a review on this on my show, my channel as well. Yes, I'm glad that this came out. There, I was expecting more with Whiskey Jar, but I do like what they did with some of these tracks from the early albums. I love the new version of Air, which is twice as long as the original. The acoustic guitar that Eric Bell adds to this is very strong. I think it it's a much stronger version than what we got on the self-titled debut. We have a couple songs from the New Day EP. We have Dublin and we have Remembering Part 2 on there, and I love the version of Dublin on here, as well as Remembering Part 2. And we get Remembering Part 1 and Part 2 on there, and I love the version of Dublin on here, as well as Remembering Part one here, I believe. And the new versions of the songs that were originally on Vagabonds, I quite like. There's a lot of cool ad libbing on here on the version of Mama Nature Said. It sounds a little different here, and it's more acoustic leanings, which is really, really cool. And the version of a song for While I'm Away is very good. Slow blues, I mean, this is advertised as an acoustic album, but you still got the loud lead guitars on there.
Yeah.
But I think there's enough on here that you definitely want to at least check this out. I mean, definitely more for fans of the early Eric Bell version of Thin Lizzy, and I quite like the first album and Vagabond. So I really enjoy this release, and I definitely love the version of Air. That to me, that's the highlight of the album. But it's very well recorded, and as Tim noted, Shades of a Blue Orphanage is better on here. It's not so muddy, and it's a few minutes shorter than what you have
Yeah.
on the original album.
And remind me, where did Here I Go Again come from? Was that a B-side?
Yeah, it was a B-side on one of the previous. I can't remember which one.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I like it. I enjoy it. So there you go, folks.
Tim, I forgot one. This was one from about
Yes.
3 or 4 years ago, and you were there on the second ever episode of Grab a Stack of Rock when we unboxed this monster
Oh,
here.
yes, right,
6 CDs
right.
plus a DVD. This is pretty much all rarities. Even though the very first disc one, Greatest Hits, is called Greatest Hits, it's almost all rarities, single edits, extended versions, single remixes, DJ edits. Then we have disc two, the early years, 3 discs of rarities. Rock and Roll with You. I don't remember that song. Banshee, I think we talked about that earlier. Dear Heart, all kinds of stuff on this. I barely listened to it, Tim, because there's so much Lizzy that's come out in the last 3, 4 years. There's so much. We already talked about 3 box sets that I need in my collection to finish my collection. We showed my Live and Dangerous, which I haven't even opened yet. This is heavy. And you
Yeah,
can't get it anymore.
looks like you could do arm curls with it. Get,
Yeah.
get all get all
So yeah,
ripped.
that is now officially my entire Thin Lizzy CD collection. That is everything now.
Awesome. No, I knew this would be a lot of fun. But yeah, there's a wealth of good music there to listen to. And this is also a band. If you get the right live album, you could start with a live album.
Oh yeah,
You could
100%.
definitely start with Live and Dangerous.
Absolutely agreed.
Yeah. All right, guys. Be sure and follow Grab a Stack of Rock and John the Music Nut on the YouTube, and we'll have these guys on again. Go listen to some Thin Lizzy, and we want to thank you for listening to this edition of Tim's Vinyl Confessions, and we'll see you all later.